What's up? What's up? What's going on, good people? It's your boy Ned White back at you again with another moment from the construction site. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We are still working. I'm still grinding. I'm still putting in effort. And I hope that you are doing the same. Please excuse my raspy voice. This weather that we're dealing with here in Jersey has got me going nutty. Got my throat and all inflamed today with my allergies acting up and everything. But it does not stop what we're here to do, right? So we are going to recap real quick. For those of you who've been with me since day one, please forgive the repetitiveness. But for those of you who are just jumping on board, this might help you understand how important this construction site is. And if you don't know, I'm going to tell you right now, the construction site is you, right? So in day one, we talked about, in the very beginning, we talked about foundation building, getting our foundation to the point where we were able to build a positive and constructive location, right? So we got rid of all those elements, all those things, all those people and relationships that were not helpful, that were toxic, that were causing us to be held bound and distracted even. So foundation building was clearing the way, making sure that we were good and making sure that we were living on good ground, right? We're building on good ground. Day two, or process two, step two, was framing up the structure. How do we want this thing to look? What do we need to do to get this structure and in the format and in the style and the lifestyle that we need to benefit ourselves? So step two was the framework. Step three was networking, right? So we talked about how we wire and how we do our plumbing, right? Who do we network to? Are we networking in the right way and to the right people? Are we connecting ourselves so that we are building the right type of structure that allows us to grow and develop? Or are we connecting to people that are draining our battery? We don't want that, but we definitely want to grow and develop, right? The other facet of that was not only just the wiring and the hard wiring, but also about how do we do our plumbing, right? And so that was dealing more with the health aspect of us, right? Making sure that we're putting the right things in so that we are producing and productive in a way that's beneficial to us. Can't do anything if we're sluggish, if we're held bound, if we're tied to, the unhealthy eating, the unhealthy habits, the not drinking enough fluids, the proper fluids, water and, juices and things to keep you functioning properly. Those are the things that are necessary to make sure that the plumbing stays right. We're being healthy about this process, right? And so here we are today at step four. Step four is sheetrocking and putting in walls, right? And as I always allude to, and the analogy has been around the construction site, anybody who's ever put up a house or has been a part of a process of a construction site knows that once we start putting up these walls and we start closing in the framework, we are talking about establishing what's going to be. It is now locked in, right? You have set forth that, hey, this is what it's going to be. So these walls are not temporary. These are walls that are permanent walls that are set in place with a purpose for you to be able to enjoy, to embrace, and to grow in, right? So it's not one of those things that you can go back and be like, hey, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to change that wall and turn it on this angle. No, we've locked it in. That means the plumbing that's behind that wall is secured and has been certified secured. Let me explain what I mean by that, right? What I mean by that is one of the things that anybody who's ever been in this world, and please forgive me for bouncing around on this one, but I don't want you to miss anything. Anyone who's ever been a part of the process knows that once you've put the plumbing in place and the electrical has been ran in a house or in a structure, you have to have an inspector come in and verify and certify that that work is met up to code. Up to code, right? So here's for us in our flesh, in our bodies, in our own mindsets, where's those codes lie, right? And so for us, they lie within whatever moral and scriptural or biblical or faith-based driven process that you run with, right? And so for me, it's important for me to make sure that the things that I say I want are lining up for me scripturally. The things that I say I want to do are lining up for me scripturally. The things that I desire to put in place are lining up, right? And so how do I balance that? I do my checks and balances by, as I said this to you guys in week 1, I'm talking about staying in my word. I'm talking about reading scripture. I'm talking about studying my Bible. I'm talking about staying around folks whose mindset is similar to what the mindset I'd like to have. I'm not going to hang around folks and confirm myself with folks who live differently than where I see myself going. So when I line up with the folks who are doing what I'm doing, or doing what I desire to have to do, that's my verification, because those folks are going to affirm that you're doing what you need to do and where you need to be doing it at, right? And let's say, for example, you're doing something that's different than anybody else that you're dealing with or that it's in your circle. And that could be possibly for you or for so many. There's parts of me that are different than anybody else that I'm around. So there's no checks and balances in that other than here, right? And so I have to trust and believe that what I'm doing and what I'm talking about doing for myself is aligning with all the other components that are happening in my life. That there's just not this one thing here and there's this other thing here and then there's something else over here. My life is not a silo. I'm not built like that, right? This is one body. My mind is connected to my spirit, which is connected to my flesh. It's all the same, right? They're all one. You know what I mean? There's no way that this hand can operate if my brain doesn't tell it what to do. So if I'm doing something different than other people, that's perfectly fine. But it should still line up with the things that you desire to do. It shouldn't be an island. So work through your stuff. Make sure that you are doing the checks and balances with your framework, with your wiring, with your plumbing, with your foundation, so that when it gets to the space where you're starting to put walls up and these structures of closing off or confirming, which is probably the better term, confirming the wall, the framework, now we know and you know, hey, I can now move to the next place because this is secured. This is confirmed. This has been inspected and certified as what's in place and it's solid. Now let's move to the next place, right? Or in most cases, as I used to always say to my sons, we're preparing for next level living, right? It's fourth quarter. What are we doing? How are we going to finish this game? How are we going to move forward? And forgive me for jumping from construction site to sports, but it's all relative. How are we moving forward? So I've certified and confirmed that my foundation is good, that the framework is right. I've certified that the plumbing is in place. I've certified and confirmed that the electrical is lined up, meaning that all of my networking is in place. All of my health needs are met. All of the ideals and thoughts and processes I might have when it comes to how the space should look are all confirmed. Now I'm ready to move on to the next level. So now I can say this chapter or this phase of the project is completed. Now I can move on to the next phase of the project, which is now doing all of the cosmetics and the outward stuff that folks will see, hear, and be aware of. Because the inward stuff, the foundation building, is on point now. It's been certified. You've got it in place. And you've checked it. Not waited for someone else. You've checked it. Now I can move forward to the next phase, which is doing all of the wonderful detail work, right? Making sure that you are looking the part, doing what you need to do, speaking what you need to speak, and putting in place those things and working those things that you've already set in place. So framework is done. Wiring and plumbing is done. We've now started securing and solidifying those spaces by verifying that all of things that are in there are on point and ready to move forward. And then once we've done that, it's time to take that next step and start moving towards doing what needs to be done to make sure that we are presenting ourselves in the way that we like to present ourselves, right? And we'll go into that as we move into next week. I really hope that this is helpful for someone. I pray, as always, that you are prospering, not just in a monetary way, but in a mental and spiritual way that has changed the way that you move in your day-to-day. Trust me when I say to you, I am excited for what God is doing in my life because I made a promise to myself to do it different than I've ever done it before. And because I'm doing it different, the results are blowing me away. The stuff that used to get under my skin just doesn't get under my skin anymore because I'm under construction, right? The stuff that used to rattle my cage doesn't rattle my cage. Why? Because I've accepted the fact that I'm under construction. And under construction just means that I'm in a new place and that always on a construction site, there's always an opportunity to do what they call a change order, right? This doesn't fit. We got to try something different. That doesn't work. We thought we can go in that direction or use this product. Can't do that. We got to do this to meet a code. I'm fine with knowing that I am constantly under construction, that this process of creating a better Ned is not about anything other than taking it day by day and understanding that it is a process and a journey that I am benefiting from. Can't get any better than that. Can't get any better than that. That I am the reason that I am moving forward and doing better for me. It's not based off my relationships. It's not based off of my relationship with my children or my significant other or my parent or whoever, my workplace. It's based off of me because I want better. I deserve better. I am going to have better. Why? Because it's what I'm destined to have. And nobody can change that but me. Nobody can work my construction site like I can. No one knows the material that I'm working with better than me. So I'm trusting God to give me the knowledge, the know-how, the ability to work what he's already put into me, right? I'm reminded of an uncle who, God rest his soul, used to always say to us all the time, God gave you all the tools you need to do what it is that you need to do. But it's up to you to use the tools. He's given them to you. He's provided you with all that you need. You just got to learn how to utilize the tools that he's provided. So I pray for you. I love you. I'm looking forward to the next step with you, and know that you are not in this alone. We are all under construction together. Take care. God bless you, and wishing you the best in this week to come. Take care of yourself.